people in the 2 line, it tends to throw Outlook into a hissy. Ooh, we're getting a little bit of interference off of your mic, so I went ahead and muted you. Sorry about that. Okay, well, we are past time. My counter counted all the way down, and our recording is rolling. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Let me just check the chat and make sure that we don't have anything going on in the chat. Nope, I think we're good. Okay. Let's see. Okay, are y'all seeing the March agenda?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So welcome everybody. Actually, let me go back one slide because I always love one part of this slide, which is it's not the counter. I love that too. But is to thank the DIR. So we have Mark Leavenworth on the line with us here. He's got his video on. So Mark, thanks
Good afternoon
to the DIR for your partnership on the Texas Teams community.
You're welcome. I'm always happy to be here.
Yeah.
If it's Thursday and there's a Teams community meeting, I know it's going to be a good day. So
it is going to be a good day. We're going to have some fun. I got about half this coffee down. I was telling people it's been a tough about month, and so I was dragging a little bit. So I'm having a little bit of coffee before we get going. I do love my coffee. All right. So let's jump into the agenda. First thing we do is the welcome, which we're doing now, and probably won't take all the time, but I want to talk just a little bit, do a little recap of why we have this new, instead of having, we don't need roads where we're going. What is this new theme we have over here on the right? We kicked that off last month. I'll just do a quick recap on that. We're going to talk very briefly about the Teams features update. I do want to dig in some on an event that we had today, which is called the Teams App Camp. I talked about it last month, and I got to see some of y'all in the Teams App Camp. So I'm going to ask anyone that attended to come off mic for a little bit and just tell a little bit about what you thought when we get to that section of the agenda. And I would love your feedback. And then we are going to bring in a new regular session here called Got Teams, and you'll understand why it's called Got Teams when we get there. And then we're going to have an open discussion. So I always want to leave plenty of time just to talk about whatever it is that y'all want to talk about. So let's jump right in. So not sure how many of you remember this skit from Saturday Night Live called Needs More Cowbell, which was a kind of Blue Oyster Cult parody that had Dennis Hopper in it, just absolutely fantastic. So when I send out the recap, if you have not gotten to watch this video, watch it. It's absolutely hilarious. So we had a lot of fun with that. And so that is one part of the new theme. And then I'm a big fan of the Black Eyed Peas. I got to see them in concert one time, and they had this awesome song called One Tribe, which really talks about how we're kind of all in this together. And especially these days, what's going on in other parts of the world, I think it's just really critical just to remember that, we're all just people here. We're all just trying to do our jobs, get along, and help our constituents. And so what we did is we combined the One Tribe and the Needs More Cowbell to come up with our theme for this year, which is One Tribe with More Cowbell. And so we're gonna have some fun with that this year. Last year I wore my "We Don't Need Roads Where We're Going" shirt a lot, so now I'm getting to wear my peace sign shirt, which is again particularly appropriate as I walk around these days. Just trying to, can we all just settle down a little bit and not start World War III? So the theme is going to be One Tribe with More Cowbell, and really what I'm talking about here with this is how do we take teams to the next level? That's the More Cowbell, and the One Tribe is us. It's our Texas Teams community. It is the city of Austin. It is all of the state agencies. Every single state agency in the state of Texas now uses Teams. We are welcoming the last major agency to come online, which is the Department of Public Safety. They already have over 3,000 active Teams users in just a span of a few weeks, and those numbers are climbing quickly. Over 100,000 Teams users in the state of Texas, so it has literally just become very ubiquitous. So now that we're all using it, let's take it to the next level. And so we're going to really talk about ways that we can improve our business processes, get rid of paper-based processes, digitize our business, really take a people-centric approach to our modern work, on our remote work, our hybrid work, where we really think about how do we decrease the amount of work that people have to do, especially manual work, so we can spend more time thinking strategically about what needs to be done and doing what's called deep work. There's a really great podcast and a great audiobook on deep work, and really providing spans of time uninterrupted to be able to really think and concentrate. That's called deep work. So let's get out of the firefighting mode. Let's get out of just really doing repetitive and manual tasks. And let's leverage the platform to automate the business as much as possible. So that's what we're going to focus on this whole year. And we have a lot of very exciting things to share with you with that regard. As always, we have about 500 names on our Texas Teams community interest list, and I've cleaned it up. I really appreciate it when if someone declines the meeting. When they decline it, they say, hey, can you please remove me from the list? I hear that too, Andra. I think someone is, I'm just going to go ahead, anybody that is not needed right now, I'm going to go ahead and mute just to see if I can eliminate the background noise. So let me know if you keep hearing it, Andra. Thanks for the feedback there. So we have about 500 members on the list, and if people let me know, hey, can you take me off the list? I'm embarrassed to say that it literally is just a spreadsheet. I got to get David Gottlieb to help me automate this stuff. I know how to do it. I just haven't done it. And so there's some really great ways that we can use automations to make that easier. And so I need to eat my own dog food is what we say at Microsoft. So practice what I preach. If you have coworkers that would like to attend this, it is much better if they sign up on the Texas Teams community interest list, because what I do every once in a while is I just clean out the meeting request and I take the interest list and I repopulate the meeting with that list. The problem with that is, the reason I do that is because it's very hard when you have 500 people in the to line to find somebody that doesn't want to be in the invite anymore. It's really super hard to find. There's no like search function in the to line to try to find one email address in there. And so, and I don't have my own CRM that I get to use for this community of ours. Have people sign up, and then that way we'll make sure that they continue to get the invitation. That was a really long. Sorry, I'm a little tired, as I mentioned. I may be a little bit rambly today, so we'll keep moving. Send them the link. It's always in the meeting request, and it's always in the follow-ups that I send out at the end of every meeting. So you should have easy access to that link for your coworkers. If you ping me on Teams and you ask me to add somebody, I can do it too. It's a form that just gets filled out, and I'm happy to do that for you. New features and Teams for GCC. I'm not going to go into all of the features and really dig in on them, but I just want to point out the same resource that I talk about each month. This is the Teams feature communication guide that is specific to GCC. Several of our big customers here in the state of Texas are in a commercial tenant, but most are in GCC. And as we all know, not everything that's in commercial O365 is in GCC, and sometimes the features are a little bit different. And so this guide will actually give you the latest on what's available. Although I will say that our team, so the Modern Work Customer Success Managers for state and local government, we've really moved away from talking about what's coming. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to be super transparent with y'all. We're all a community here. We just haven't been doing a great job of getting things out on time recently. And I don't know exactly what that's about. I think it's just, it's a very complex ecosystem that Teams is part of, with SharePoint and all the additional features, and Azure and the integrations. And so when we're rolling out features, there's a lot of things that can trip up the Teams engineering team. And as good a job as they do, we've had a couple of things that haven't made it out when we said they would, or more than a couple. Mark Leavenworth and I were speaking at the beginning of this meeting about webinars, which is a Teams meeting that has a registration page. It's months behind release schedule, and they're working on it, and they continue to work on it, but it's months behind. And so so my team is really more focusing on what is it that we have right now that we're not making enough use of. Let's not worry about what's coming. Let's talk about ways to use what we have. And that's really, again, this focus of what we're going to be doing for this year, is really thinking about and talking about and digging into the capabilities that we haven't even really scratched the surface on. So let's see, you can click the link at the bottom of the presentation being shown, and it'll take you to the site. Yeah, thanks, Roxy. Yeah, that's one of the super cool things about using PowerPoint Live as opposed to sharing your screen. The first really cool thing is that I can still see everybody in the meeting. I can see myself on video just to make sure that, you know, I haven't spilled something on myself or something like that. And I can still see the chat, whereas when you share a PowerPoint, it takes up your whole screen and you lose the ability to kind of see what's going on. So if you use PowerPoint Live, which is in GCC, and all you do when you do that is if you click the share button, then it's one of the options. So instead of sharing your screens, you just scroll down and you find the PowerPoint you want. If it's not in the list, there's a pre-populated list of the PowerPoints you've been working on recently. And then you also have the ability to search inside of your OneDrive. So I always recommend keeping your PowerPoints in OneDrive, because it does the versioning control and the autosave. So autosave is kind of a double-edged sword. Many times I've opened up a PowerPoint that I'm going to, like our Texas Teams community PowerPoint, each month I open up the previous months and then I edit from there. Well, you've got to do a save as, or it immediately overwrites because it has autosave. But it does have version control, so you can always just restore a previous version. So keep your files in your OneDrive instead of keeping, or in PowerPoint, I'm sorry, SharePoint, and that way you don't have to worry about some of the kind of the crazy hijinks of keeping it on your computer and losing your stuff if your computer gets a Coke spilled in it or something like that. But anyways, you can browse your OneDrive to find your PowerPoint, or you can click Browse My Computer. And the links in the PowerPoint work for your participants. Now, you also have the ability to turn on or turn off the ability of participants to scroll ahead. And so I'm not super controlling. If y'all want to go and look at the next slides, that's fine. It's a little eyeball right up the top by the Stop Presenting button. And if you click on it, it gets a little cross through it. And that means that participants are not able to move ahead. And if you leave it alone, then they are able to move ahead. Let's see. So yep, that's all I wanted to say about that. So what you do is just click the link, and we update this. We were updating it more frequently. It's going to probably only get updated about once a month now. But it has the list of all of the features that are going to be released and the ones that are on the roadmap. And we do our best to predict when something's going to come out. But again, that's been a challenge recently. So don't really pay attention to the dates for things that are in the future, but just know that it's coming. But you can look at what's released recently, gives an overview of what that feature is, and then typically we'll give a link to more information on some of the features that are pretty involved. And so I think you'll find it to be very helpful. And when you go to that page, that Teams feature guide, on the home page, the first page, I should say, are links to the previous feature guides, because we do this quarterly because we release so many features. The Teams roadmap with a GCC filter applied is also there. And so if you're interested in looking at the roadmap, then that's a great place to go. Again, don't pay attention to the dates. They might not be right. So we talked about Find Time last month, and Find Time has just been, it is now supported in GCC. It has to be turned on by your administrators because it is an Outlook add-in. It can be used in Outlook Web Access, so the browser version of Outlook, or Outlook, the application that you install on your computer. And what it gives you the ability to do is when you are trying to coordinate a meeting with people that are outside your organization, so in other words, you don't have access to their calendar, then you set up a find time. And it gives you the ability to pick what are the dates, and then you can send out as the organizer, these are 5 times that I'm available, sends an email to everybody, or a meeting request, and it gives them the option of picking what's available to them. And they can say, this is my preferred one, yes, I'm available at this time, or no, I'm not. And then let's just say you sent that to 5 people. Once all 5 people have voted, it automatically schedules the meeting and sends it out to everybody. What it'll also do is it'll hold those times on your calendar. That's an option. That's what I do. Like I'll send out 5 times, and I know somebody's going to book over one of those times that I've given to people. And so I had it block it. And so it says hold, and then it says the name of the meeting. So something to know, if you do a find time with an email, when everybody votes and it sends out the meeting, it uses whatever the subject of the email is. And so you want to make sure that your email subject is exactly what you want that meeting named, or it'll send a meeting request out to everybody with something that isn't really, super clear when someone's looking at their calendar what that meeting is about. So that's find time. We showed the video last month. I'm not going to show that again, but I just highly encourage y'all to use this. I really just started using it last month, and it is such a time saver from all of the, hey, here's 5 times that are available to me, and then all that email back and forth exchange. So, and one other note, this happened to me recently. I sent it out. There was about 11 people on the find time. We did not come to consensus. And so if you don't come to consensus, like there is not a single time that you sent out that works for everybody after everybody's voted, then you could add more times. And so just know that if it doesn't get consensus, then it won't schedule the meeting. And so you kind of have to keep an eye on it a little bit. And all you have to do, if you set it so that it'll hold times on your calendar, is just go find one of those times and it says hold in all caps and then colon and then the name of the meeting. Double click on that, and in the body of the meeting will be a link to go to the web page that has all the find time information on it, and that gives you the ability to update it. So it's a really easy way to go and look at what you sent out. So that's find time. And if you're the way you add it is when you're in Outlook. Let me see if I have Outlook handy. All right. If you open up a new email message, let's see, y'all won't see this because I'm not sharing my screen. Here, let me share my screen real quick. When you're using PowerPoint Live, it's sharing just the PowerPoint and it's not sharing your screen. So if you want to share something that's actually on your screen, then you have to stop presenting and then start again. So here's this email. I'm going to send it out to Mr. Bunton. So let's see, Chris Bunton, there he is. And I'll send it to, I'll actually send it out to David too. There's David Gottlieb. And I'm just going to say test meeting. And then once you've added find time into your Outlook, it'll just show up right here. You just click that and you click the times that you want to send it out for. And then you click next. And then these are these options about notify me about poll updates. So when people vote, it lets you know, schedule when attendees reach consensus. So you can turn this off and you can just kind of keep an eye out on your own, but I like to have it automated. And then hold the times on my calendar. You can turn that off or on. I usually leave it on. I think I turned it off for one that I just did. Lock the poll for attendees. So once people have voted, you can actually lock the poll. Email notifications in find time language. So I'm not actually sure what that does. I think it just sends the notification. If someone else has their computer set to Spanish, as an example, it would do that. And then I don't do this require attendees to verify their identity where you actually have to log in or something. I just leave that off because I'm already sending it to people. And then you would just add it to the email. like this, and it puts the poll right here. Now, one other thing that I did that is just kind of, I think it's just kind of makes it easier, because the first time I got one of these, I was kind of like, well, what do I do? Like, do I click here? Do I click here? Okay, well, you actually click here, and it takes you out to a web page where you vote. But that's a little, I don't know, I don't think that's super intuitive. So I created a signature line called Find Time, and I put a little instruction in my signature line, and I highlighted it in yellow to make it super obvious. So that's Find Time, and it is muy bien. Cancel that. Hopefully that won't block my calendar. Any questions about Find Time, or has anybody, would love to know if anybody has started using it and what your experience was, whether you liked it as well. Anybody using it yet? Eva, all right.
I've used it a couple of times when I'm trying to set up large meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a huge time saver and so much easier than the going back and forth for 10 emails trying to find a time.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice.
Yeah, that's what I found too, and it really gets particularly important when you have a lot of people in a meeting. Yeah, thanks, Greg. Appreciate you putting that in there. And then Star, I've installed it, but I tend to still default to scheduling assistant out of habit. Well, and when you're using it for scheduling something with people inside your organization, you don't need Find Time, because scheduling assistant will show you what is on their calendar. So there's no need for it. It's really only when you're going outside of your organization that you need Find Time, because you can't see people's calendars that are not in there. Let's see. Yeah, there you go, Jose. So I think I just answered your question. I work with external partners, and this would save a lot of time. Absolutely, Marisa Bell. That is super true. And then yeah, so hey, John Van Horn, good to see your name. It's been a long time, man. So yes, some people have it, but not everyone. So you have to actually go in Outlook. I always hesitate to show my Outlook, because you'll see how far behind I am on emails. I think I've told people before, if you send me an email, I probably won't, I might not see it. I really try to stay on top of it, but there's just so many emails, it's kind of crazy. And so there's a little button that says Get Add-ins in Outlook. That can be disabled by your IT department, because there's some add-ins that shouldn't be in your organization, and that are not really appropriate for government. So if you don't have that, then you could go and see if they could even, there may be some way for them to automatically deploy Find Time, but it was not supported in GCC for years, and now it is. So there you have it. And the reason it wasn't supported was we bought the company that was the Find Time. That was a company that they had made that product, and then we used it, but then Microsoft bought them. But their data center, where they kept, like, where the interactions occurred and all that stuff, it did not meet the CJIS, that's Criminal Justice Information System, or IRS 1075 security requirements. And so we had to move all of their code and all of that other stuff and do all the code reviews, and then move all that into our CJIS compliant and IRS 1075 GCC data centers, so that it would be GCC compliant. That's why it wasn't, quote, supported. It worked, but it wasn't supported for GCC. So now it is. Yeah, and could use it before you could use it before Microsoft bought it. Now you can't. Well, that's no good, John. All right. Oh yeah, if people have their calendars blocked, I always set mine to show full details. I don't know that my boss surfed my calendar, and if they did, they would see that it's pretty packed. So that'd be fine. But if people have their calendars blocked, then you can't use the scheduling tool. All right, let me go back to our community slides. Another cool thing about PowerPoint Live, they just improved this feature. At least this happens on mine, is that a little pop-up happens and it asks me if I want to go back to the slide where I was. And so I click the resume button and it will take me to the slide that I was on, which I think is a pretty cool feature. Okay, Microsoft Teams App Camp. Talked a little bit about that this earlier, but I can't remember if it was before everybody had joined. I know I talked a little bit about it during the intros. So the Microsoft Teams App Camp, we had one for the West region of the United States back in December. It was really very popular, very successful, and so we just had it yesterday and today, and we had I think we had 500 and something registered for yesterday, and we had about 400 people attend, and I would say 90% of the people stayed for the whole thing. It started at 9 o'clock and ended at 1 o'clock Central Time, and that's a whole lot of people to be in a meeting for that long. It was very educational. The labs were fantastic, and so don't feel bad if you didn't get to attend, because we recorded all of it. We have all of the lab materials. We have the PowerPoints. We have everything available for you at these links right here. And so again, you can click these, and I'll include them in the follow-up email. Is there anyone here in this meeting that was in App Camp? I certainly wouldn't blame anybody that was in App Camp for not. There's Jose. All right. Oh wow. Okay. Would one of y'all be willing to come off of mute and share what you thought about App Camp? I know Jose's not shy.
You know me so well. Now I gotta say, man, it was really. I missed this morning because we had our team's meeting, our internal team meeting. But I was there yesterday and this afternoon. It was really, really good, and I think I'm gonna share that with Simon and Teresa. I know Teresa. I don't know if is she here? Maybe she might be here.
Yeah, she's only 2 spots upper from you in the little list.
So she's been working with Power Apps, so I'm gonna show her but since you're hearing the links, since you had the recording and the test environment, I'm gonna show her what we did. I think she's gonna be really interested on applying some of those concepts. But it was really good, man, and I want to thank all your team and whoever put that in place, because I got a lot of information out of it. Yesterday was kind of hectic because I guess we had a lot of non-IT people in there.
Yeah. And
so
the goal was to have, this was really for, not IT. But that meant that setting up the lab environment was a little tricky for some people. And you're right, it was yesterday was a bit of a hot mess.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any issues going through the instructions. Everything was, all the instructions, everything was, pretty much self-explanatory. But you take your IT knowledge for granted when you run into these camps. And I do want to say the what's it called? Those cards.
The adaptive cards.
The adaptive cards. That was really good. Like I said, I want to show that to Teresa because I think she's gonna be interested in doing stuff like that. So. But thank you. It was, like I said, it was really good, really informative. And the main thing that was why I loved it is that it works in the GCC.
Yes, that was really specific. It's really, it's just painful for all of us here in that run in GCC environments how everything is not there that we need. And so every lab that we did, everything works inside of GCC. And so I'm actually cutting and pasting those links right now into the chat, so you'll have all of them. But I really applaud their members of my team, as well as some of our customer engineers who were on and delivered the labs, and then also we were helping to support the attendees. They did a really good job of making sure that everything worked.
They did, yeah. Like I said, awesome job. And I already tried one of the labs in my production, and it worked. So a lot of times you go through these camps and you get excited, and then you find out that this doesn't apply to GCC. So that was a big plus that it actually works in our environment.
Good. I'm so glad. Thanks, Jose. I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing that. So I just posted into the chat. And so what this is if you just go to this URL, it will open up a browser, and it's a tool that we have where we can share documents, and the videos are quite large. And so all of the videos may not be up there yet, but if you go back to that same URL, then we've taken all of the videos from each of the sessions, and I trimmed them down and made individual videos for session 1, session 2, or lab 1 and lab 2, and then lab 3 and lab 4. And then we also did a session over lunch yesterday on how to set up the demo environment. And so if you go into the labs, you can sign up for a free 90-day developer Office 365 tenant. And so you can be working inside an Office 365 tenant that's not your production environment. So it's a great place to go and try things and learn. And also, it may give you, it is a full-blown Office 365 tenant, and you'll be an admin in there. And so if you're not used to doing that, and, as Jose said, you sort of take for granted your IT knowledge. If it's kind of beyond your skills, we're going to be covering almost everything that was covered in the app camp. We're going to be covering over the next few months in the showcases of the things we're talking about, and we're gonna cover the first of that today in our Got Teams session. So I see that is it Brienne Reed? You got your hand up, or Brian? I may be mispronouncing.
It's Brian. I didn't realize I still had my hand up. But
okay.
Yeah, just to speak on what Jose was saying about how hectic it was yesterday, I think a lot of that could have been avoided. Like yesterday, they took the time at lunch during the lunch hour to go through and setting up the instant sandbox for the developer tenant that you were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And I think if they had taken that time right from the jump, I think that would have alleviated a lot of what was going on there. Even when John went over it again this morning and he went out at a faster pace, I think that would have been sufficient just to get people beyond that first hurdle. And then I think following, like, the labs were great and the content was great. I just think that would have helped a lot of people move along through there a little bit better.
And you may have missed the first. We spent the first, I think we spent the first 15 minutes or so of day 1 going through and kind of giving a quick overview. I may be mistaken about this. Sorry, again, it was a long 2 days. But if you are interested in doing the looking at the labs and doing that on your own, then just make sure that you watch the video on how to set up the lab tenant environment that you can do.
Oh, yeah. I went back and did that on my own, and then I was able to follow along with the labs a lot better myself. I totally my fault. When I received the lab and stuff in the email, I didn't really look over the PDF fully. I just kind of glanced at the big top of it, and I figured I'll just do that when class starts. And if I'd have known, if I'd have been aware to set that up ahead of time, I think I would have been okay. Yeah, but it was good. And the speed of the guy that did the second half of today, he went a little fast. But other than that, I think
Mo's was super fast, especially because it was taking so much time to provision the app.
Yeah.
Like, go back.
Yeah. I totally agree, Star. I think Grant is, he is so super pro, and he's so young. It is just amazing how talented he is for such a young person. And he has such a passion for Microsoft Teams and Power Apps. And so, but Grant really knows how to go really slowly, and he uses that little arrow tool and the zoom tool. He's the best at that I've ever seen. And so I think his pace was just about right. And then, and Mose, he went a little fast today. The challenge we run into is it's a lot of content that they want to cover. And so I have found when I attend things like that, listening to the presenter, watching what they're doing, reading the lab guide, which is step-by-step guidance, and doing it all at the same time is too much. Like, I'm not actually learning anything. I'm just clicking and following as fast as I can. And so what I found is it's better for me to go back and really use the lab guide. And what I'm talking about with the lab guide is It is the step-by-step with screen captures of what you need to do to go through the lab. And it really, if you do that and you listen to the recording, they talk about why they're doing what they're doing in the recording. So if you're just looking at the lab guide, it doesn't explain the why, it just explains the how. But the videos explain the why and the how, but it's too fast to follow along with. So do a little bit of all of it. And I'm gonna bring Grant on this community call also, and some other of the super brainiac people that I have on available through Microsoft. And so it's gonna be lots of good stuff to share. So yeah, thanks. Anybody else want to give any feedback? Hey, Star, there you go. I see you got your hand up. Is that a stale hand up?
No, it's not stale. I just have one real quick question.
Yeah.
You did say that you guys are like trimming and editing the video, and I was wondering, like, of course, the question about like how to create the accounts was repetitive. But like, are you going to be keeping in when you trim some of the other troubleshooting things that people saw, like, you know, my condition isn't working or that type of thing, as part of the recording?
Yes, we will. And I'm looking. I just clicked on the link. I think the links I put in here may not actually be the correct links. I copied them from one of my teammates, and I don't think they're right. So I'm going to apologize. Yes, the recordings are the actual recording of everything that they went through. So it should be everything. And I'm looking here now, and I'm seeing Stacy, who owns the site where we posted all the content. She hasn't had a chance to copy the videos up there yet. So just when I send out my follow-up email, I will make sure we get the right links that go to the right place where all of the content lives. Okay, I take that back. So when you click those links, it'll take you to a page and it will open up to the App Camp like Lab 2 Lab Guide. But on the right-hand side are other assets. And so there's the PowerPoint decks, and what is not there yet is the videos. Now, if this tool that we use, it's this thing called Live Send. If it's not capable of hosting these bigger videos, I'm going to take all those videos and put them on my Texas Teams community YouTube channel. And so let me go ahead and put that URL in here. Let's see, AK Texas. Oh, I don't know what that's going to go to. Sorry about that. Let me fix that. Oh, it hasn't gone out yet. Okay, so all right, guys, if I try to talk and type at the same time, I'm going to fall over.
While you're doing that, Mike, I agree with Brian, because I think you mentioned at the beginning that this camp was also for non-IT people.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then yeah, the pains from yesterday could have been saved by spending 20 minutes showing everyone how to do what they did through lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is we didn't get the email about the labs until the day of the training. And maybe it might help if they send it like a day before, so people can prepare for them as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that feedback, Jose, and thank you for that. We're going to do a follow-up email, but if you would provide that feedback, that'd be really helpful. It was a lot to pull together to have all that content, and we should have allowed ourselves more time for all the planning and getting all of that done. It was everybody is doing that on top of their day job, which is part of our day job, but I think we could have executed better. So thanks for that feedback.
I still think you did a great job, but I'm an IT person, so.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I would be interested to get some feedback from non-IT people who attended. I think it was probably just way too fast and kind of confusing, but going back and looking at the lab guides and looking at the recordings, I hope will help them. Things. Okay, so I just put in the chat. This is our YouTube channel for the Texas Teams community, and let me make that a URL and send that again. Okay, there we go. There we go. This is our YouTube channel, and it has all of the recordings from all of the 3 years of 2 years of meetings that we've had, and then I'm going to post the videos from the app camp on here, and so you can get them there as well. Okay, so let's move on. Again, thank you for attending the app camp, and we're going to do more of these, so you'll have more opportunities to experience that and to learn that. Okay, so I'm going to skip past the slides that really explain Power Platform, and we're going to go to our next session. And I couldn't be more thrilled. There's a gentleman that works for the city of Austin. His name is David Gottlieb, and David and I got to know each other, I think maybe going back, it could be as much as 8 years ago, when he was just starting to cut his teeth on SharePoint, and he was like, "This is cool." And I have not seen many people dig in on their own and get to such a level of skill and knowledge as David Gottlieb. And so, as y'all know, Billy now is an employee of Microsoft, and so he has he's full time, and he's doing all this stuff on our on Dynamics and our biz apps. And so I just love having somebody that's so much smarter than me come on and show how this stuff works. And so we're going to have it's not exactly like It's Billy Time, but we're going to have a session that we're going to call Got Teams. And you might think that's a typo, but it's not, because it's David Gottlieb. And so we got Teams. And David, you're on mute, so we can't hear you. You're guffawing or anything else.
I know. I'm just I gave Michael creative license on that front. So, yeah, he came up with that.
So when I told Billy, I'll tell a short story on myself. When I told Billy that we were going to call it, I said, "Hey Billy, how about we call your session It's Billy Time?" And y'all know Billy. He was like, "Oh my God, Michael Kennedy, you cannot." He's like, "I would never call it It's Billy Time." And I go, "I know, I'm calling it It's Billy Time." He goes, "Whatever you think, man." And so that's the same basic thing David said. So what we're doing in this, David and I have, like I said, we've gotten to work together for a long time. David has 2 people that he works with down at the city of Austin. And so David's a super smart guy. And he has even, I think, super smarter guys that he gets to work with. And that is Hal, Lou, who is on the call with us here, and then also Jacob Flores. And the 3 of them are kind of like the 3 amigos, I would say. And but they don't wear the cool outfits. They might not do this thing.
I just want to add, there's actually Sporthy Good. It's not all 3 amigos. We've got Sporthy on the line too.
Oh, and awesome.
So hopefully they can all come off camera and take a bow, but they're the real brains that make all this stuff work.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a monthly showcase of business solutions built on Teams and Power Platform. Some of those are going to be things that David and his team have built. Some of them will be things we might bring in from other customers. I would love to get more of y'all highlighted here in the work that you're doing, because I know that stuff is going on out there. And so you can just message me on Teams, and we can talk about what the solution is. And not everything is kind of a scales out to this size audience, but I really want to know what y'all are doing, because I want to support you more. And with 94 state agencies, and then the city of Austin, which has 20-something departments, it's a lot of different groups to work with. So what I'm trying to do is really leverage our community to scale out our ability to help all of us have more impact. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to David and to his team to talk about a couple of solutions that they've done leveraging Teams and the Office 365 and Power Platform.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Yes. So I am a nerd. I really like this platform. I see so much potential to tackle the everyday problems that bubble up. And I feel like I have a great job in that we get to provide real world solutions in an environment that I feel like it really makes a difference. And I love leveraging this platform and this technology to kind of just, you know, do what I can in my small way to make the world slightly better, more efficient place. And I just want to pause and make sure, can you guys see my slide okay? The logistical support cold weather shelter. Can someone give me a thumbs up before I prattle on? Perfect. All right, so what I want to do today is kind of just talk about two real world use cases. You know, we keep throwing around all this technology and sometimes it's hard to visualize how it all fits together. And when you're comfortable with a whole suite of tools, it allows you to develop solutions. I mean, I've tried to do it in the past and it was, you know, things that would have taken months, you can just do in a day, 2 days. So I want to showcase two real world examples. I don't want to do too much in PowerPoint, but I do want to kind of just highlight some stuff. So I'm going to show some PowerPoint slides, then we're going to do a live demo, and we're going to go back to do another PowerPoint slide and another demo. So, and then we'll open it up for some questions and answers. And I did want to definitely, you know, Hal and Jacob and Sporthy are on the call, so I'm going to throw some praise their way. But it's not just Dave Gottlieb. It's a whole crew of people that brainstorm together, work together, think creatively about problems, and then just go execute and just go get it done. So it's awesome. So the two use cases we're going to talk about today is one, we live in Austin, Texas, and sometimes it gets cold here. It gets really cold, and it comes in a hurry. You know, we get these Arctic blasts that come through town, and this happened recently. A couple weeks ago, we had a stretch of about 4 or 5 days where it just got really cold. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people experiencing homelessness, and they needed a place to go, like now. And so we got a call. The city actually shut down for a couple days, but for the lucky folks in IT, some of us got a call from Homeland Security and an emergency management early on the morning of the first day that it got really cold. And basically what the city tried to do, God bless them, is to open up some cold weather shelters. And there's a picture I put up here on Instagram to kind of give you an idea of what that might look like. And they stood up about, you know, close to a dozen of these cold weather shelters. And wait, hold on. So the city spun up a bunch of these cold weather shelters, and they were so there's an emergency operations command center, and if you can imagine a big room with a bunch of people and a bunch of big TVs on the wall, it's where the police and EMS and fire and Travis County and Capital Metro, they all get in a room. There are all these screens up on the walls that show video cameras, live feeds, and they use that command center to help with logistical support. So the question, they called us in the morning and they're like, Dave, and Afa's unfortunately not on the call, but Afa called from them and said, Dave, we've worked together in the past. She said, we're having some issues trying to understand the occupancy at all of these facilities around town. And we're trying to understand where to send people and if we need to spin up more shelters. So it's really important for me personally to understand what's the problem, what are they trying to do before you start solutioning, right? And really understand what does success look like. So for me, you know, I was just kind of listening to what's going on. This is all new. And what Afa explained is really what they were doing is old school, is they were just getting on the phone 4 times a day, and one person was just updating this information in a spreadsheet. And it was kind of hard to read, and it wasn't very efficient, and they knew that they could do better, but they just needed a little bit of help. So we thought about that, and what happened logistically is there are these shelter managers that are kind of coordinators, managers that are in charge of each of these shelters. And so what we thought we could do is, instead of them all calling, getting all these people on the phone and calling and updating the spreadsheet, is we thought we could, let me just go to the next slide, leverage Microsoft Teams to pull all these pieces together. And because Microsoft Teams is really like it's a permission trimmed space for you to pull elements together that this group of people is working on. And so there was already a winter weather 2022 team. And so what we decided to do is create a web page that pulled a lot of elements together and put it as a tab here, and give the shelter managers either email them a link or print out a QR code at the facility that they could shine their phone at, and it would fill out, they would just fill out in Microsoft Forms the day, the time, the shelter name, which was a pick list, and the occupancy, a few other questions, and they just hit submit. And we're going to do this a little bit later all together and kind of see the results. And then rather than have that spreadsheet that was kind of hard to read, imagine that spreadsheet up on a screen across the room, we tried to tell the story with that data with Power BI in a way that could fit on that kind of 65-inch TV screen. That made it really easy to see that, hey, we've got a total shelter capacity of 600, we've got 434 occupants and 166 spaces available. So right in the upper right, it's really easy to see, do we need to spin up more shelters? And then below, kind of dynamically, it can show you each shelter and what the current capacity of that shelter is. So you could see, in this situation, Ditmar Recreation Center in the bottom left is actually over capacity. They said there's room for 75, but they've got 80. And then Montopolis Recreation Center, has 75 and they only have one person there. So does that make sense? I'm going to pause before I do the live demo and kind of talk about how we did that. But does that use case make sense to everyone? Give me a thumbs up or yeah. All right. Guys still tracking me? Thanks, Michael. Okay. So I am going to, I'm going to stop sharing this presentation real quick, and I am going to share a team in Teams. And just someone give me a thumbs up that that's coming across okay. Cool. Yes. All right. Thank you, Michael. All right. So what we did here is there is a master list in SharePoint of all the shelters, and that's got their address and the capacity and all the other variables about that. And then we have another list here that helps support this dashboard below. So what I'd like to kind of do here is to show you that I'm going to enlarge this, and if y'all could take a few minutes and shine your smartphones at this QR code, and if you can pick out and just do it here real quick with you. So you should be able to use that. Pick a day. Let's use today. Let's do the census time of noon. And pick a shelter. I'm going to do Del Valley, so somebody pick something else. Put in the occupancy. The occupancy for all of them is 75, so I'm going to put in 80 to say we're over, and I'll just do 40 females and 40 males, number of kids, number of pets, and then my name. I'm going to put in Super Dave. And then submit. So if somebody could give me a thumbs up after they've completed that, so I just kind of get an idea of how many people did that. Thank you. All right, we'll give you guys a few more minutes. We're going to try to do a real world demo here. I could have pasted that link in the chat. Thank you, Michael. if that makes it any easier. Let's just do that real quick. There it is. So you can kind of see. So that was pretty simple, right? I mean, that didn't take a long time to create a form like that. You can do that in just a few minutes. Then we have a Power Automate that takes that form on submission and pushes it into a SharePoint list. And then we built this Power BI dashboard to look at that list and tell the story we want to tell from that data set. So I'm going to ask that Hal work his magic in the background and refresh that data set. We've got it scheduled to do an auto refresh at the right time of day. And they wanted this to happen 4 times a day, in the morning, at noon, at about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and lights out. And that was their cadence. So that is what we designed. And Hal, just let me know when that data set refreshes. And there you'll see from our survey here, you can see the results of what we just put in. Sound good? Questions, comments on that before I go on to the next one? But that's a real world use case of how we used Teams, Forms, SharePoint, Power BI to help that group out. And we did all of that design, built, test, trained, deployed in a day and a half or 2 days. So
I was kind of blown away. What I loved about this solution was the way you pulled all this stuff together onto this one page, and then you somehow made it appear in Teams. Do you mind going into a little bit more detail on, where is this page? How did you get all this stuff on a page? How did you kind of almost create this composite of stuff in one place?
Sure. So you may or may not know, but if you're a SharePoint, if you have some experience with SharePoint, is what happens when you actually create a team is it creates a SharePoint site collection that leverages the permissions of this team. And the easiest way to get there is if you go to the Files tab, there's a document library here, but you can open this in SharePoint. And I think if I open in SharePoint, it's going to pop it into a new window here. Let me just, it's asking me to log in. I'll share this in 1 second. Let me just, 1 sec, I got to enter a code.
They use I really love, they use multi-factor authentication at the city. So when you want to click and go into a SharePoint site or an Office 365, then you get a text message that comes to you, and then you have to put in the code so they make sure you are who you say you are in case your credentials have been compromised, as has happened to many of our fellow agencies, and ended up getting a credentials compromised, and then malware and ransomware and bricked their whole organization.
Yes. So yeah, I encourage you. It is kind of a pain, but it is important for security reasons to turn that on. So when I clicked on that Open in SharePoint button, it brought me here. And this is a site collection. It's got the name of the team here at the top. But if you click on Weather in the upper left-hand corner, this is the home page for that site collection. And you can just create a page or a list right here and then use that in the team. And I believe that's what we did. We went to Site Contents and we created a page. Well, actually, I think it's on a different site collection. I'm not sure where that thing was, but I think there was another project we were using, but had the same privileges. And then once you've done that, you create a web page with all of your parts. You can then embed that back in your team, and that's what we did here. This is the shelter coordinator. This is actually on a different site because we were leveraging some work we did over there.
Oh, sorry about that, David. I didn't mean to trip you up there.
That's okay. But it's really just a web page in SharePoint, and these are quick links. I don't know if you've ever used quick links, but it's just a web part in a modern web page. And then in the web page, we created a section and we put the QR code and the link to forms. And then we embedded the Power BI in a web page. So what I like to do is just use a web page as a way to bring out all your elements together and then put that web page as a tab in Teams.
Yeah, but I like, David, how much code did you have to write to make this page look this way?
No code. No, this is easy. And if we could build this page in 10 minutes if you wanted to see how to do that.
We might do that. David, I think that might be a really cool another session, because you've been working with SharePoint a long time, and doing something like this, like creating so SharePoint Online, we made a transition away from the classic SharePoint Classic pages to the new modern pages, and the modern pages, they don't look like SharePoint anymore, which is a big bonus because not many people really love the way SharePoint looks. And the ability to put these web parts on here and then embed images or these quick links, like Dave said, this is really, it's so much easier than it used to be. You kind of really had to know what you were, like, the web parts and all this funkiness. It was pretty hard before. So yeah, Dave, maybe what we could do is next month we could do a little bit of a deep dive on SharePoint and how you use SharePoint as part of your solutions, and maybe just go into some more detail on that. Yeah, that'd be super easy. And I like the fact that you see the real world use case, right? So it's not just academic, but how they all kind of come together. Yeah, and one of the things that we talk about in the app camp, so you can use a SharePoint page, but you may not have the SharePoint knowledge, or your SharePoint environment may not be at a level of maturity, or you may not have access to it, in which case it might make more sense to use a Power App instead of the SharePoint page. And so you really kind of have this toolbox of different tools to use. And so we're going to be highlighting how to use Power Apps as well as how to use SharePoint as sort of the interface for your business solutions. Yeah. And we'll kind of show the difference there in a minute. But if you're just trying to display information that's pretty straightforward, then SharePoint is an excellent way to do that, because it's just so easy. And I just wanted to highlight in this slide that these were the technologies that we used. We talk about the platform, and it's got all these little apps, but they all work together to kind of pull off, to meet the needs that are people out in the field trying to do their job. So it's really easy to spin up a Microsoft form. You don't have a lot of control over the way it looks. That's okay. If you're just trying to get something done, and we just use Power Automate to push that to a SharePoint list, which is just kind of like a table, and then SharePoint web page, kind of pull all these different elements together, and then Power BI and Microsoft Teams. So that was our supporting technology stack for that use case. And so let me go on to the next one. This one is really cool in that I like how creative people are thinking about some of the problems that people who are experiencing homelessness have. So I'm going to try to play this video. It's only about 3 minutes, but just to get you on the understanding that the ask from this particular group of people, which is the community court. I hope you can see and hear that okay. Give me a thumbs up.
Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jason Zielinski.
Oh, sorry, it did not remember my start spot. Let me just jump over here. There we go.
The City of Austin launched a new program this month called Violet Keep Safe Storage to ensure those experiencing homelessness have a safe place to keep their valuables.
This is the first program of its kind in the area.
Yeah.
It's a citywide effort. They're excited about it.
That's okay with me too. They waiting to be used. Yes, they are. And they're going to be used quite well. Like I have a total of maybe about 1,000 bins. Think about putting a picture of the client.
We're here at the new storage facility for the homeless. It's called the Austin Keep Safe Storage.
They can have memos, clothes, other stuff in here.
To make sure that their valuables are in a secure location and that they have confidence that they're not going to disappear.
The plan is to grow.
Yeah, about 80, 85 bins now. Okay.
And also establish more sites across the city.
I know. Got here in 2007, but I didn't become homeless until 2012. For me, the way I became homeless was economic. A paycheck. I lost a job, couldn't pay the car note, couldn't pay the. There's a lot of us out there like that. All we need is need a little help.
This is important for anyone who's going to a job every day, who's going to a job interview, may not want to show up with a shopping cart, right? Or who may not want to show up with a rucksack.
You could wake up in the morning after sleeping under a bridge and find all of your things gone. You could go out looking for food and come back and find your things gone.
It's a basic job, and it's a good income job for the city of Austin. Now I work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
To have someone here who could share with us what makes a difference in their lives as we build this program has been invaluable.
That gave me goosebumps right now. You know, just helping people, that's all we need to do.
We want to continue to hire homeless people to staff these sites, and we want to continue to do what we can to make a difference in their lives day to day.
They got me from the streets, and look where I'm at. It's an insurance policy that I'm making for myself, so I don't have to come back to homelessness.
The storage program was developed in partnership with the Austin Homeless Advisory Council and the Office of Design and Delivery. Now, Mr. Harrell was part of that development team before joining the Austin Resource Recovery staff this summer. Access to the program is available through referral by homeless providers.
Awesome. So let me talk a little bit about the ask there. So it turns out, so that was the business need, right? Is that we had a group of people who were trying to get reintroduced into the workforce. They're not super techie savvy, and their jobs, you know, a lot of the people running this facility were homeless. They're trying to help them reintegrate. So we were trying to think of an easy way to help them run that program. And basically what happens is new people try to sign up and they get a bin, and that bin comes with a lock. And as long as they use the bin, they can have the bin for free. They just have to come in and check in. And when they check in, they go get the bin and bring them up. And what we needed to do was, if they don't use the bin in 90 days and there's no check-in and they can't get a hold of them, then they consider that, the people running the program consider that abandoned property, and they empty the bin and then make it available for someone else who might need it. So what we did in this scenario, where what Michael was saying, the last thing we embedded in a team was a web page. And this time, what we decided to do was, rather than embed a web page, we went ahead and built a Power App and embedded the Power App in the team. So again, we leveraged teams because the group of people that run this facility already had a team, and that we created a Power App and made that a tab in the team. And so we'll do a demo of this. We'll kind of walk through and you'll see how this works. And we did use SharePoint lists in the back end to store this data. So here's what it looks like in a web browser. This Power App in a web browser, just the same screen, but a little bit bigger. And we'll walk through this together, but there's a new client waiver, and assign them a bin and check them in, client info, bin management, and Power BI reports. We'll walk through that. But that was the business case. And we tried to design it so that it would fit on an iPad, because we thought that was the easiest way that that team could enter data and take pictures. And we'll kind of talk about some of the pictures, because a lot of times when you try to sign up for things, you need a unique identifier, like your driver's license or your social security number. We didn't really have that option in this particular use case. So they're hoping to, if two people have the same name, which they could, maybe take a picture of them. And so they'll have their name and a picture. So when they come to check in, they won't give people the wrong stuff. And to pull this off, we used Microsoft Forms, Power Automate, SharePoint Lists, Power Apps, Power BI, and Microsoft Teams. So let me show you all how that works. And for this, I have to give credit. The first one, mostly Hal and I worked our magic. Jacob, I am not as good at Power Apps as I probably could be, but Jacob is a wizard at Power Apps. So he gets all the glory on this one. Let me go back to Teams. If I can find my Teams. I share the right screen? I did. All right, so here's our Violet Keep Safe Storage team. And let's give it a second here. And here is our front desk app. Which I'm going to reload this tab. And as you can see, we just embedded this app. Again, you can pop this out by clicking this little globe in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to do that because I think it's a little easier to see. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to kind of stop sharing and reshare that screen. Oh, keep asking me to log in again. Sorry, one sec. Tried to have this all open before, but 13. All right. I think I'm sharing the right screen. All right, hopefully y'all can see that a little better. Can you resize it? So this is our Power App, and typically what happens when someone came up prior to this, you know, Michael stated earlier that we're trying to get away from paper. So the way that this worked originally is they had a packet that was about, I don't know, 7 pages thick that they wanted these new applicants to go through, and it was the typical legalese at the beginning, and then they tried to collect some information. So what we did is instead of having them fill out a piece of paper, which then they had to keep track of, we had them use, again, Microsoft Forms. And it was a long piece of paper and a lot of stuff in there. What we did is a lot of sections, is we just broke up a lot of that content into sections and forms and put this little feature that shows you where you are in your form. So basically, the standard terms of service, accessing the facility, what are the rules? So they'd go through this, storing personal items, you know, we don't want anything in there that is going to be an issue. This is where they just basically agree to contact the facility regularly to intend to use the stuff. So if it's not 90 days, then they'll consider it abandoned property. Standard waiver of liability. And this is where you can enter the applicant information. So I'm going to say ironman@gmail.com. I'm not going to fill this all out, but I am going to pick on Tony Stark. We've been doing a few characters for movies for this. But you'd get their phone number, their email, emergency contact. Are you able to provide ID today? If not, I think they have 30 days to show some form of ID. And we worked with the team to find out what questions they wanted. And if they had any authorized users, they could put that in there and you'd hit submit. And so that would take them, so that is Microsoft Forms. So this is a Power App that's linked to Forms. When that form gets submitted, it pushes it into a SharePoint list. And now we're going to basically assign this person a bin. Now that they're in the bin, they're in the system, you see that Tony Stark is here. And we can assign him a bin. And I'm going to go ahead and assign a bin. And they have different facilities, and I'm going to choose this facility here. And I have some demo bins in here. So I'll do demo bin 001 to Tony Stark, and it's been assigned to this individual. Then let's say I want to add or update some of the information about Tony. This is the client list, and so you could search by name or bin, but I'm going to search for Tony, and it's going to show me the last check-in, but I haven't checked in yet. And so what I want to do here is, this is the edit information about Tony. So all the information we would have put in that form would show up here. But I was going to attach a profile picture. And if this was on your phone, you'd be able to do that pretty easily. I've got a Tony Stark picture here. And I think I might have to refresh this. And there's a picture of Tony. So I'm going to go back. I've got Tony's picture in. And then for the most part, most of the time, they're just checking people in. So they click this button. They'd search for Tony. I guess I probably should have put Tony Stark. And Tony's picture should show up here. Maybe it hasn't refreshed yet. And it's got the default time. Let me hit refresh here. Of course, in my demo, it's not going to work. And then I would just hit the check-in option, and that updates the last time he checks in. So that's the business process for the most part. And then there's a bin management, which is just a separate list. So I can search by either a bin that's assigned or unassigned, and I can find my bin here, and I see that this one's assigned to Tony Stark, and I could edit the code. That's the code that the lock is on. And then if the last check-in date has been greater than 90 days, these are people that they could go in and unassign the bin. But what they were saying is that if they empty the bin, some people came back and said, you know, you threw away my stuff and there was a laptop in there and now it's gone. So we added a feature where they could attach a photo of the bin contents before they emptied it. And so that would all be here in one spot. So that, and we just met with his team yesterday to train them. So we haven't gone live yet, but we're about to go live. But now we're using Power BI to surface all the information about this program, where they can have the number of active clients, they can show what percentage of their bins are assigned, unassigned, they could sort by facility. This is if they wanted to do some more analysis of how many people were checking in on each day. So once you've got the data in a structured format, it's really easy to create, to leverage Power BI to tell the story that data could yield. So I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to my PowerPoint to see if y'all have any questions or comments. Go back here. That's it. Questions and answers. What do y'all got?
Star and Jose. Hold on a second. Let me go to the. You've got multiple hands up, so I'm going to use the who got their hand up first feature. Jose.
All right. Hi, Jose.
I can start, but okay. So, David, great presentation. Thank you for showing that. What measure? Because this is a question I asked this morning on the camp too, and it seems like a lot of IT departments are struggling with this. What measures is or what advice would you give to your department, to your organization, when they create these workflows and the person that creates the workflows leaves the agency? We want to get ahead of that. Right now, we don't have a lot of people creating workflows in our environment, but I know that question is going to come up when they leave.
Well, it's a valid question, and you really do need to do your due diligence up front, because one question is just how do we get someone to update the workflow that someone else did? But another question is if nobody knows where that workflow is, it's harder to find than it used to be in SharePoint. So our team has a business process where we have like a special list of all the solutions we built and a process map web page where we talk about each section of what this does. You know, this workflow does this. These are the components of it. You know, this form uses this workflow to go to this list, and try to tell the story so that if someone else gets asked, how do I, you know, I have no idea how this works, there's a consistent way that we can go through and show that.
Hey, David, let me.
Thank you. That was a great. Thank you.
Let me rephrase the question just a little bit, so because some people may not understand, you know, why that's a problem. So, so Power Automate is part of the Power Platform. When you have a license, and it's turned on, and Power Automate is turned on, an individual user has the ability to create workflows that can do all kinds of amazing things, like David had been showing. But when an individual makes a workflow, the default is that it uses their identity. So, you know, michael.kennedy@microsoft.com for the workflow. The problem is when I win the lottery this weekend and I call in Rich on Monday, and they disable my account in 30 days, then that workflow stops working because it uses the identity of the person to run. And so there's a lot of concern, and it's a very appropriate concern for. It's one thing if I make a workflow that's just for my personal use. And when I leave, I'm gone. So my personal use is no longer applicable to the company. But if someone makes a solution like this solution that David is talking about that is used by a lot of people, and David wins the lottery, then what happens? So we have to take into consideration what identity we use for creating these. And again, if it's just for you, that's fine. But when you're going to use it for someone else, then there is these things called service accounts. And so a service account isn't tied to an individual's identity, but instead is an entity that is created so that it lives beyond the person and their account inside of Office 365. David, did I explain that well? Is that completely accurate?
Yeah, I think you're doing a good job. And so, yeah, when you create a form in Microsoft Forms, it defaults to your kind of like a OneDrive and a workflow the same way. So step one is to make sure if you're creating a form that's going to be used after you win the lottery, you want to use a group form, right? A form associated to a team, not associated to you. And similarly, when you build the workflow, you want to make sure that all your connections leverage service accounts, right? Which typically comes up because a lot of these workflows want to send an email, and you don't want it to come from you, so you'll have to get either on behalf of or some service account to make sure that it's going to live long and prosper after you're gone.
Great question. Thank you, Jose. Star.
Yes, sorry, David, my question is about if you do any sort of validation with the power portion of the form for reserving space in the cold weather shelters, because I noticed that the form does have number restrictions, but that, as you know, because you gave that really excellent City of Austin demo on forms, that doesn't actually do any validation and doesn't actually really render numbers. Like if you do an export on the form data, it's just text formatted. So I was wondering, because I was like playing around, I was like, oh, I'll be silly and I'll say I'm bringing 8 people, 4 women and 20 men. And then just started messing with the numbers. And I was like, so I was just wondering, do you guys do any validation to verify that the numbers make sense?
Not necessarily that the numbers make sense, but that they are numbers. So I think when we taught our forms class, I don't know if it had restrictions on there, So Microsoft Forms will let you do a text field, but there's a restriction that says it has to be a number. So we use that. And Microsoft Forms is great for what it does, but there are some gotchas there that if you don't understand the nuances, it'll break. That's why you need to go to Power Apps. But one of the things we're always struggling with is if you use Power Apps, everyone who uses it needs a Power App license, unless you do some other stuff with the portal and make it a little bit more complicated. So a lot of these use cases for us is we're working with people outside the organization who don't have a license, and so we try to be creative on how can we leverage what we've got.
Yeah, I love that answer that you gave, because it does matter. When we create the solutions, sometimes those solutions have a tremendous ROI because of decreasing cost and increasing efficiency. And ROI meaning return on investment. In other words, we're spending $1,000 to do this, every month. And if we did this simple form, then or this Power App, then we would save $1,000. And sometimes that's not $1,000; it's $100,000 or $1 million a year. And so when we think about what's it going to cost to do this as a Power App, then that needs to be calculated in. And sometimes there's budget to pay for licenses to do that, and sometimes there's not. And so we need to think about that. And so one of the things that we can do, and we'll probably do it as a separate session, is really dig in on what requires licenses, what doesn't, or maybe we could have someone come on and speak about that here. I don't want to bore people that don't care about that, about the licensing part. But as we create solutions, we want to be responsible to our agencies and our entities that we work for, not to create something that's going to increase a lot of cost.
Yeah. It's a valid concern, but the same thing could be said about a complicated Excel worksheet. Hey, we're dependent on this complicated Excel worksheet. What if the person who creates it leaves? Well, hopefully you have someone else that knows Excel that can help. So, we try to not to have only one person that knows how these things work. And typically we have a process where we put two developers on. So Hal and Jacob, or Sporthy and Jacob, will do a review to make sure they both understand how this works. And if somebody's out, they could pick it up.
Yeah, and that could be they're just out because they're celebrating an anniversary or something, or on vacation, or it could be they're out permanently because they left the organization. And so having more than one owner for things and having more than one person that knows how it works are really important. And there's a tool that we have called the Center of Excellence that also allows you organizations to track who all is creating Power Apps and different things. And so we can talk a little bit about that in the future. I really want to thank David and his team for showcasing this solution. I'm going to send out, I'm also going to ask for kind of some feedback on future topics. I'll do that next month because I really want to make sure that this is applying well for y'all. Traditionally over the last 2 years, we've really just been talking about teams. And as we move more into talking about solving business problems and creating processes or solving processes with teams, I want to make sure that this is landing with y'all. And and if you're like, well, hey, I really still need information on features and teams that have been updated and how do I go about that, then I want to make sure that we give that to you through this community as well. So feel free to reach out to me on Teams and give me feedback if you would like to do that sooner than later. But again, David, thanks to you and your team. And we are actually at time. And so thanks to Jose and Star. They're always willing to come off mute and ask questions. I would really encourage y'all as you learn more about this. We're going to have workshops. We have training that's available through our customer success training team about Power Apps and Power Automate and Forms. So we have lots of ways for y'all to learn this. So don't feel like this is just stuff that people that are brainiacs or have developers that work side by side with them can do. The whole goal here is to make this so that we can all sort of elevate our agencies and make them more efficient. So with that, unless there's any other questions, I'm going to just say thank you again for being part of our community, and thank you for attending, and we will see you next month. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.